Around 1375, a natural calamity occurs on the island of Crete. And we don't know what this is, but we do know that the complexes on Crete were largely abandoned at this time. Mainland Greece then becomes the cultural power that overtakes and dominates the Aegean region. Mycenea is the capital of the culture that then becomes the dominant cultural presence in this region. So who were the Mycenea? It's kind of complicated today because what we know about them largely came from the later Greeks, who had a romantic notion of them as wealthy warrior kings and often modeled their behavior after them, seeing them as honorable and heroic and brave. Modern scholars, however, refer to them as sea pirates, and it's clear that they were a very militaristic culture, especially compared to the earlier Minoans and Cycladic people. In the early Bronze Age, there was a migration of a Greek-speaking people to mainland Greece, and they brought with them a metalworking, pottery, knowledge of architecture, architectural methods, and they displaced the earlier Neolithic peoples that lived in this region. In the late Bronze Age, would become the Mycenaean people were based on mainland Greece, but eventually overtook the entire region. And again, their capital is here in this pretty strategic position that puts them in this gulf and on a trade route that goes from the Aegean off to the Ionian and then eventually to the Ionian Sea and then eventually to the Mediterranean. In the capital of Mycenea, we find a great citadel that was discovered by a Greek architect in 1841, and he is the one who discovered the Lion's Gate that you'll be watching a video on in a minute. As you can see from this aerial view of the archaeological site, what's left is a very heavy fortified wall that surrounds the entire citadel. And as opposed to the Minoans, and specifically the site of Knossos, in which we saw open walls and columns that let in air from the outside, although a very confusing plan, we see here that this heavily fortified wall implies that there was a need for protection, or at least limited access. We know that it was built over time, from about 1600 to 1200 BCE. And I'm showing you here an artist's reconstruction of what the citadel might have looked like. And you can see that this great fortified wall encircled the entire complex. And what was enclosed was a small city that included buildings for many different purposes. We have administrative buildings, royal buildings, a grave site, a grave circle that we'll be talking about in a moment. And this is where the Lion Gate was located.